Thinking about now, sort of all the projects and engagements you've been involved with in your time at Baskerville Drummond, what would you say are your sort of top three consulting life lessons?
Um, I would say that the biggest lesson is that quite often things aren't as bad as the firm may perceive. So quite often there's a major disconnect between the IT or applications and the law firm owners. And actually, a lot of our time is spent getting those same people in a room and going through and actually bridging the gap between technology and the law firm. So sometimes things absolutely aren't what they should be, but sometimes a lot of it is misunderstanding or incorrect investments. So I think that is number one. It's about the people. You know, IT technology consultancy is so much more about the people than about the technology. So I think that's very much number one. Number two, sadly, is just don't believe a salesperson. And I do say that with Sad Heart, but basically salespeople are there to get a deal. It is very rare that a salesperson will actually say or do the right thing for the client that they're selling to. And there are people out there. You know, there are some people who will say our solution isn't right for you, but they are far and far between. Whenever you are buying or selecting new technology, a salesman is there to wow, to try to get you to buy everything, and they do not give honest feedback as to the challenges there is to implement. So they will say things like, oh, I'll buy a new practice management system, it'll take 6 months to implement. They don't tell you that actually you need 50 days of training to even become efficient to turn it on, or you need 20 days of customization to make the screens look as you wanted them. So I think that's the second thing is what I would call general honesty in the marketplace, especially in that sales cycle. And the third lesson, and this really hit hard the first couple of times it happens, is, and it is linked to that first one, is sometimes vendors just don't do the right things for their clients. They will do the right thing for the vendors. They'll protect, they will manage their risks, they will look after their product, they'll look after their service. But actually, sometimes a vendor just needs to go, you know what, if we did X, it'll really help our clients, and we will do X, and we'll get those things done. And you find at times that when you need those trusted suppliers, as those suppliers would like to call, and you ask them for something just a little bit out of the normal, they will run a mile. Or you find a problem with their solution or their service, they just won't grab the nettle and give you what they want. So I think for me, I'm a very personable person, and I spend all of my time on relationships. That's where the value can have. And when someone looks you in the eye and says, I'll fix that, and then runs a mile and doesn't help, that is really hard, because as an optimistic person, you expect if someone says they're going to do something, they will get on and do it. So I think those are the three very ramblingly long answers to your question, I think, Sarah.
Now, I've known you for more than 10 years, and you don't look any different, but the legal...
No, the dieting's never worked for me, but keep trying.
Oh, well, you don't look any different to me, but the legal tech world is different now. What do you think the biggest changes have been, and have they presented you with challenges or opportunities?
So I think, if you think 10 years, certainly the cloudification of the world is probably the biggest change, where 10 years ago, moving to the cloud was something that people think, oh, should we do that or not? And actually, cloud consumption of technology is now, a consumable item, really, that there are online case management, online PMSs that you turn on and turn off at a month's notice should you wish to. So that attitude has changed, that cloud is no longer a big, huge thing. It's just here, it's accepted, we use it. So that's obviously a change. But with that has also brought, some of the people have sort of taken an approach that going to the cloud de-risks their situation, but actually it adds a whole set of different risks. So if we think 10 years back, and I won't name any names, that there's a couple of well-known MSPs who created like a cloud platform for legal. And actually that was a multi-tenanted hosted environment. And some of the firms who went down that path of what I would call Cloud V1 ended up in a real pickle, because they'd moved to the cloud thinking it was the right thing to do. Everyone was talking about it. at the end of the contract, they found out they were going to get charged a load of money to get their data back because the exit terms were unfavourable. So they end up rolling over contract, and then over the years go down, support services drop, the technology isn't refreshed because it's an EBITDA race to the sellout for the owners of those MSPs. So I think there is some challenges there, especially that cloudification is causing. I think linked to that is the expectations from users. So we're all now used to the Netflix world, if you can call it that. You just have an app on your phone, you run it, you consume whatever you want. And none of the legal tech vendors have made that transition to make their products as easable to consume as consumer IT. And I think that is something we have to see happen over the next 5 to 10 years, that just has to happen, that the investment goes into products to make them usable and people happy to use them. There isn't any law firm that I talk to who is absolutely really happy with their technology. When you start talking to people, everyone is complaining about everything because of they feel it's a barrier to getting them to do things. They find the interfaces are clunky. It's just hard work to work in that environment. So, I mean, some of that is due to the Law Society rules and the need to have special PMSs and all of that side, which limits the market. So I think anything that is seen that changeover, if you like, from commodity consumer IT into the business world. I think that is the biggest challenge now for tech companies, because that's the pressure they're under from the law firm, and that wouldn't have been the case 10 years ago.
Okay, the cloudification, is that presenting you with new business opportunities? Because I know that you've got the your virtual IT service manager offering, which is came about because a lot of the sort of there were some issues with firms moving to the cloud, but then that sort of disconnect between what was delivered and what was actually what was needed by the firm, and that sort of alignment went out of skew. Is there a big business opportunity for you there as a sort of an intermediary?
Yeah, certainly, and then that is something that we've seen. So the virtual IT manager service came out of two pressures, really. The first was that firms had outsourced to a MSP, and then they were disappointed by the service delivery from that MSP. So we sort of like found that the partners and firms weren't happy about being like, well, you got a ticket, you got a 4-hour response rate, it's not good enough. So the virtual IT manager will be there on site to provide enhanced support that MSPs just cannot deliver or will not deliver to contractually. But equally, you don't outsource a problem. And most law firms had outsourced their IT to MSPs because they were outsourcing a problem, rather than thinking about the fact that then should become a key strategic partner. So the idea with the virtual IT manager is therefore that they can manage those third-party suppliers, they can make sure that applications are being updated at the right pace, that there's end user training, that the MSP is held to account on SLAs. All of those things that you still need to do as a law firm that your MSP just will not do properly for you, or won't do them in the scope of their service. So I think that's what we're saying. That's why it's popular. And then I think the third element to raise on that is quite often we'll have a firm where we're working as their virtual IT director or set the strategy, and then the firm needs to implement those recommendations, but they have no one to do it. And to be frank, they don't want to engage somebody on my day rate to implement what I've suggested, and it's better off having somebody at a more sort of like IT manager level who can do the findings for them or work with them to do those findings on a day-to-day basis. So that again works really well for us and getting projects over the line, that we've got additional resources to help push them through.